Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. We've got two parts to the show today. In a few moments' time, we'll be speaking to a comedian. Second part of the show, we'll be taking a look at new figures which show that Britain has a higher rate of problem drinking than anywhere else in Europe. We'll be talking about our relationship as a nation with booze. In the meantime, we're going to be speaking about a show which is coming to the Liverpool Comedy Festival, which is always brilliant. They moved the dates of it to sort of fall in line with the new university year, which means that come September, there's loads of great acts around and loads of shows to see, some of which are free. And we're getting some of the performers on the programme right now. In fact, one, Sam Serrano. Sam, great to see you. Thank you for your time. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
Hey, not a problem at all. You've got a show coming to Liverpool on the 24th of September at the Jacaranda.
Yes.
That's not a bad... The Beatles played there. So
Did
you're doing
they?
all right, yeah.
Oh, cool. I should have the same career as them.
Yeah, absolutely.
No excuse now.
I don't know if it was free for them when they were there, but it's free for people to get in. I always, whenever I speak to a comedian, I used to do this thing where I'd always go, so the name of your new tour is based around on such and such a thing. And I'd mention this to a comedian and they go, to be honest, I just had to come up with a name. It's nothing to do with the name. But actually, I wonder whether or not that's going to be a different thing for you, Sam, because your show is called Nobody Loves Me.
Oh, that's an outdated... It's called Unattractive.
Unattractive?
Unattractive, yes.
Well, that's almost... I don't know if that's an even more important thing. So your last show was called Nobody Loves Me. Your second is Unattractive. So what we've got there is we've got a theme.
We have, yes.
So, well, I tell you what, can we touch on Nobody Loves Me first and foremost?
They're the same show, just change the title.
There you go. The theme that sort of emerges from it, it's about you, I guess, discovering yourself, who you are, how you fit into the world. So set up a little bit about yourself, about who you are, how old you are, how you grew up.
So I'm 18, which is obviously very young to be doing comedy. And I started when I was 14. And then kind of like last year, I had a bit of a rocky stage for mental health and like with depression and things like that. And then I just realised that I have this platform which I'm using and my main aim is just to make people happy. So I thought if I could turn stuff that's making me sad and make people happy, then I'd use that. So I'm trying to like reuse my sadness to make other people happy.
Yeah, I mean, you're at such a young age then, you know. But you've been doing stand-up comedy from the age of 14.
14.
Which is...
when I did my first gig.
It's a very sort of harsh environment, isn't it? I know people presume that everything's going to be a right laugh, but it can be, it can be very cynical in the way that people view you as well. Did you feel ready for that when you started?
I was very naive when I first started. I thought I'd do open mic night and then next night I'll be doing live at the Apollo. Like, that's not how it works. Like, there's a lot of different gigs and they can knock your confidence. And of course, that can affect you in a number of ways. But it's just kind of, if you keep working at it, then that hopefully should be a light at the end of the tunnel.
In terms of what you're learning in that time as well, presumably, you've learnt a lot in that early period to the point where now you're into adulthood. You're in a much more rounded position, if you like, to take a look at dealing with that, deciding whether or not to go on with it. And it's obviously something you want to continue with.
Yeah. It currently seems to be going okay. Audience seem to like me. As long as audiences keep liking me, I'm going to keep doing it. Because that's why the second I feel audiences go, not keen on him anymore, then I'll stop. But as long as audiences keep liking me, then I'm going to keep going as long as I possibly can.
In regards to yourself and sort of how you perceive yourself, how much of that were you willing to put up on the stage? How much did you want to sort of take control of yourself? What were those elements of yourself that you thought, I can use this for myself?
I have very low self-esteem, so obviously with shows called Nobody Loves Me and I Don't Blame Them and Unattractive, I've got very high self-esteem on stage. But no, I use the very low self-esteem thing. Last 5 minutes of the show I'm doing centres around my depression and some suicidal tendencies and stuff like that. I think I try to be as personal as possible, because I know I'm not the only person going through this, and I feel if people see someone talking about it in any environment, it can be reassuring. So I like to think that people hearing it thinking, oh, okay, it's okay to talk about this and kind of remove the stigma so people do open up. So I think as long as I'm opening up about it on stage and being as personal as possible, then I'm going to carry on doing that.
Have you found a benefit to yourself in doing that? Because, of course, the wrong thing would be for you to talk about it, but actually for the situation not to improve. Have you found your situation has improved by focusing on using it as a stage act, if you like?
Yeah, because, like, now I see the bad things as not bad things, but as material. So it's kind of, there's a good spin on it. Like, I always use the example of, in the first few seconds of the show, I do a joke about my mum and dad being divorced. Now, like, I'd, like, get nervous talking to counsellors about that a few years ago, and now I just tell random strangers. So, like, it has helped a lot, because I turn it into something positive rather than the sadness that used to be with it.
In terms of your depression, you mentioned you've had a difficult time, a tricky time just recently.
Yes.
In terms of that, those lows being the lows, when you compare them to the highs of being on stage and people laughing and having the round of applause as well.
It's very optimistic as how it goes.
Yeah, maybe so. I just wondered how you sometimes sort of got your head around the fact that you might have these very low periods, but also you must have these moments of elation when you are in that sort of environment. That's a really wide spectrum, isn't it?
It really is. And I think I write all the time. Like, I just churn out material all the time because I know that can then go on stage, so it kind of reminds me that there will be times, be it 10, 20 minutes, and just like a couple of nights a week where I will feel so excited and so happy about it. So I just try to focus everything I do on my stand-up and just try and keep going. But yeah, like with the depression, when I got diagnosed, the first thing I did was write about it. So it's very much just trying to focus on that instead of focusing on the bad things.
There'd be you writing about it, but then there's you writing about it thinking, I need to make people laugh with this, or this might need to be funny.
Yes.
Do you twist the story? Do you embellish different elements of it? Or do you just think, no, this is something I probably should be 100% honest about?
Yeah, like there are like some comedians who like change certain bits of the story to make it funnier. And if I'm doing the story like about something my goddaughter said, then yeah, I'd like change it to make it funnier. But I think with those kind of things, it does need to be as personal as possible. And like I wouldn't like embellish it for comedic effect in any way. See what I mean?
When people are watching you, though, are they thinking, oh, now he's going to do something about mental health? When we talk about destigmatizing, talking about mental health, being able to talk about it honestly, is there a bit, there's not this bit where it's, and now here's the mental health bit. Have you found it easy to be able to talk about how you think and feel within a stand-up set without some of the audience feeling alienated maybe, or whether or not they think, oh, hang on a minute, I've noticed a bit of a change in tone here?
You can feel audiences go, oh, how's this going to pan out kind of thing? How's this going to be funny? But I think the jokes have to be really strong. If you're talking about deep subjects now, trying to make the jokes as strong as possible, just to relax audiences. But you do feel audiences tense up sometimes. It's not like the typical comedic thing. So they're not expecting a young boy to get on stage, so they're already tense about that. And when I start talking about darker stuff, you do feel audiences feel a bit, oh, should he be talking about this? So it can be a bit strange at times.
But that's actually the front line of what we're talking about when we talk about destigmatizing and tackling stigmas around this. That actually there is this thing that people freeze up. They think, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm here for a laugh. I'm not here to talk about these things. But actually for you then to work that into a set, presumably by the end of it, you're getting similar responses to the way that they were laughing before. And I don't know whether or not psychologically they'll go, oh, I can now laugh about these things, or I'm allowed to engage in this sort of thing.
I mean, a worry is that people think if they see me, then they think it's just a joke, and I actually try to make it that it's me talking about it, and just because I'm using this platform, it does still affect me, which I think is something I'm trying to get across on stage at the moment. It seems to be working okay.
In terms of your age, though, I asked you 18 years of age, very young, to actually bring up a topic like that at a young age.
Yeah.
That's a little bit trailblazing, I don't think, look back at the mainstream comedians now, very few of them made their name from going on stage and pouring their heart out, particularly the male comedians that we see. Do you feel like you're taking a risk at all? Do you feel like you're putting up a lot of yourself up on stage?
It does feel like a risk. Like I've had some gigs where people just refuse to laugh. They hear me go, oh, my mum and dad are divorced, and they just go, we're not going to laugh at this. So there have been some tricky gigs, but then I think I'm trying to work around it and try and make sure that people like trust me. I think as long as an audience trusts you, then it's not really a risk. Because they will think there will be a punchline at the end of this. He's not just going to have a breakdown on stage. It will be funny eventually. So I feel as long as the audience trusts you, it's not a risk. But it did have to build up a long time. There were a lot of very bad gigs where people would just go, why is he talking about this? But I think now that they've got that trust in me, then there's less of a risk in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Sam Serrano with us in the studio. He's got a show, Unattractive, which is coming to the Liverpool Comedy Festival. He's going to be at the Jacaranda in the basement on the 24th of September. It's a free gig, that, by the way, so you can go in and see it for yourself. I think it's going to be a fascinating night. The Jacaranda as well, celebrating its 60th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's old. That's old. Sam's just 18 years of age and he's sharing his story as part of this week's Mental Health Monday. In terms of the reaction from more senior comedians, which is basically all of them compared to you, what do they say to you about your set? Because, of course, there'll be people who might be in their 30s, 40s, 50s who might turn to you and go, here's a bit of advice about how you deliver a punchline.
Yes.
When they hear your material, have they said anything about sort of its appropriateness, how you might actually make more of it, how you might change your set as well? Because they're, of course, seeing it from a different point of view, but from a more professional point of view, I guess.
Yes. I've had one or two people go, you might be better talking about different things, and I try to not listen to them, but like just try and focus, because I know that what I'm doing is helping me and it's also helping audiences. So I've had a few people say, maybe you should talk about different things. Audiences just tense up a bit. I've had other people say that they think what I'm doing is very brave, which is an interesting thing to do. I can kind of see where they're coming from with it being brave. And I've had a few people say to me, like, if you rework this punchline or if you set this joke up differently, audiences will get less tense, which was a big issue for me at the beginning. But yeah, I've had quite a bit of help. Like, if people going, this is the best way to do it. And it's really has helped me in any way. I'm open to constructive criticism.
Absolutely, because if it's funny, then it's funny, no matter what the topic is. But actually, for some comedians to say, drop the mental health stuff, it must make you think, well, actually, that's a big part of who I am and why I'm doing that. Yeah.
Because it is a coping mechanism for me. It's now a massive part of my life. I carry notepads around with me all the time. And whenever I get sad, I just read over my stuff and make notes. So I think, as much as the comedy is all about making the audience laugh, I think that kind of stuff is also about helping me. So I think I'm not really going to stop doing that kind of thing, because I know how it helps me. Like, obviously, if a joke's not working, I'll cut it. Yeah. If it's getting no laughs at all, I'll be like, okay, maybe not use that one. But yeah, because it's helping me so much, I'm keeping that stuff in. As long as it keeps getting laughs, I'm keeping that stuff in. So I'm making audiences happy, and me.
Good stuff. 24th of September, the Jacaranda Basement. It's a free show. It's part of the Liverpool Comedy Festival. Sam Serrano is up on stage, Serrano, if you're looking for him on YouTube. Yes. And people will do that when they're looking for a comedian as well. You give away a lot of yourself as well in terms of sexuality, makeup, learning difficulties you talk about as well. See, you for a young man, you are focusing on a lot of different things, almost taboo subjects a little bit, but you're going headlong into all of them. Yeah, I think when I started comedy, I always said I don't want to be a young comic. I want to talk about things that in a few years I'll still be able to do the same material, because I don't want to write material now and then a few years have to do more work. I'd rather just keep that stuff. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think because again, it's the therapy thing. I've got things that I want to talk about. I'm not gonna not talk about it because it shouldn't be funny. You know what I mean? So I am tackling taboo subjects. But I think if I approach them in the right way, they're less taboo, and we need to open up about the kind of things I'm talking about. So if I'm open about my sexuality or my learning difficulties, then hopefully other people will feel it's okay to do that. Yeah, it seems like you're taking on almost a great responsibility in opening yourself up to those topics and then sort of becoming a voice of those topics on a stage. Do you have like a support network around you who you can sort of rely on to say you're doing that the right way, or voices that you can trust, if you like, to offer constructive criticism, the right kind of feedback?
Yes. There are a lot of comedians who are very supportive of new acts. Like, everyone wants you to do well, you know? So everyone kind of jumps on and goes, you can change this bit around. So it kind of does help. I also get messages from people saying, like, you know, you talking about divorce, it really helped me. And my mum and dad have been divorced, so thank you for talking about that. So I think the more messages I get like that, I think, yeah, I'm doing something good here. You know, if it's reaching past a joke and is actually helping people like it helps me, then I know that I'm doing something right.
And of course, there are comedians who've done entire shows based on a divorce of the parents. There are comedians who've done it based entirely on their sexuality, or whether or not they choose to wear makeup, or whether or not they choose to talk about their mental health as well. You're packing it all into one kind of show as well. How do you see yourself in the next few years in terms of where you want to take your act? You want to take your on stage persona as well as developing yourself off stage as well.
Part of me is hoping bad stuff still happens, so I've got material. I'm worried that after this one, a barrier will come off and my life will be fine. But yeah, I'm hoping that as many people see the show. You know, I'm hoping to take this one to all the festivals, hopefully do Edinburgh and that kind of thing, and then kind of just branch out and reach as many people as possible. You know, so like I say, like touring is something I'd love to do. I'd love to just go around with the same show and get as many people seeing it. But as long as I'm just going around, you know, be it 10 minutes in a pub somewhere, as long as people are still laughing and I'm still making people happy, if I do that for the rest of my life, that'll be fine. I'll absolutely sound with that.
Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you coming onto the programme as well. We wish you best with the show, which you can see at the Jacaranda. He's too young to even know the Jacaranda. He's only just old enough to be allowed in. The 24th of September, Jacaranda Basement. It's a free show as part of this year's Liverpool Comedy Festival. A whole host of different topics included within there as well. I'm sure you're going to get loads of support as well from the Liverpool community. Sam Serrano, thanks for joining us on Mental Health Monday.
Thank you very much for having me on.
It's Radio City Talk.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Part 2 of the show this week is going to focus on drinking and issues that come up as a result of drinking, off the back of some new stats which says that Britain has a higher rate of problem drinkers than anywhere else in Europe. These are pretty stark findings, and findings that I was discussing with a couple of individuals, and I'm going to bring you that conversation now. David Barnicle works at the Brink, which is essentially a dry bar in Liverpool, but it does fantastic work within the community from an addiction point of view, mental health point of view, and a whole host of other things. Sara Lawton was in on the conversation too. She's from an organisation called the Construction Impact Framework. She does loads of stuff and sets it out as part of the interview too. We were talking about the fact that Britain has this higher rate of problem drinking than anywhere else in Europe, and the issue of the culture of alcohol in the UK may well be at the heart of it.
Through working at the Brink and all of the associated people that I come into contact with, you know, all of the personal research that I do, and reading, watching different things and just getting information for various things. You know, there's a few things going on. You know, one is, you know, alcohol is there to provide a means of escape from something, a state which is non-desirable, you know, and that's a huge topic on its own. You know, essentially that's at the root of all drink and drug, light or heavy, you know, categories. But of course you have different countries. You say, well, if humans are all the same, you know, if the human condition is that, you know, we all feel some kind of distress, whether it's mild or intense, and we want to use something to take that away, you know, why is it particularly alcohol in the UK and Ireland? You know, if you look at the history, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you know, we were still known about as a country who compared to others, you know, we're really heavy on the drinking, you know, the alcohol.
But this study goes kind of beyond that idea of we're on holiday and we're having a few and we're having it large and it's a Friday night. We're talking about people who for drinking has gone beyond that. It's become that thing where it's almost a necessity in their life that they are basically in a period of drunkenness or with drink 100% of the time.
Well, where the culture is the way that it is, which is, you know, we have a habit. Our culture has formed this habit over hundreds, if not thousands of years, where drink is the first thing you reach to make things easy or whatever. You know, it correlates with that. You know, that's where you will see them kind of figures. But I also heard something interesting from somebody who is in fellowship, 12-step fellowship, AA, and they have access to a lot of the information from World Health Organization. They represent us they represent AA on a county level and national level, I think. And World Health Organization was saying that they can actually trace back the levels to which cultures can handle alcohol in their system and the problems that fall from that. They can trace it back to how long that culture or that country has had alcohol within their culture. And so at the extremes, you've got cultures and places in the world that have had exposure to alcohol for the longest amount of time, like thousands and thousands of years. They seem to be the best equipped with being able to process alcohol internally in the system. And then you've got like the newest possible cultures, like the Indians in North America, the Inuits. They are the cultures which have been exposed to alcohol, most recently, and they're the ones with the biggest problems.
Oh, really?
Their alcoholism rates are like make ours look feeble. Do you know? Because it's like almost as if the amount of time that a culture needs to be able to adapt genetically, even do you know what I mean?
But that's a sense, isn't it? That it's not just, come on, everybody, let's sort out our, addiction services and so on and so forth. That might well be a huge part of how things change in the future. But actually, there's a historical significance to that.
I think there's different things around alcohol as well. So there are lots of people, professional people as well, who go home and think they've had a hard day at work and they open a bottle of wine. And that might lead to a bottle and half of wine after they finish work, and it's a bit of a reward, and they'll drink it while they're cooking. And I think there's quite a lot of people. But that
decision, sorry to interrupt, just that almost like trivial decision to just go, the glass of wine, the bottle of wine, that is the result of hundreds of years of cultural habit.
Yeah.
To just to go with the fact that it's wine to take the edge off.
You see it on telly as well, don't you?
Yeah.
People will have and they'll have a drink.
It's so normalised.
It's so normalised.
But it's that thing of going.
But I think that can lead to a bit of you hear of functional alcoholics.
Yeah, so definitely.
Just because they're not rolling around in the street doesn't mean that they do not require alcohol every day.
It's a crutch.
And then you've got the other side, where it's probably expensive to go to bars and stuff in town, but then you could go to the supermarket and buy really cheap cider or something. And I do believe if you drink in a house and you're not going out, you don't measure what you're drinking. You could have 8, 10, 12 cans. You could drink a bottle of cheap vodka. There's all that. And then I'm also a believer in people having purpose. So by that, what I mean is I very rarely drink because, I get up, I have to go to work, I've got responsibilities, I've got parents that I care for, I've got all this type of stuff going on. And there's also a culture really around people, and I think it links to poverty and deprivation, where, they've not really got work to go to, they might be in the health, and particularly if it's young people, they might have a drink of a night, they haven't got to get up of a morning. So what happens is that then becomes a culture, and it can be with anything sort of you take, whether it be smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, or harder drugs.
Something to take the edge off, isn't it?
Takes the edge off, and it can easily spiral out of control. It can so easily spiral out of control.
But we've talked about the drinking in terms of trying to escape something, but we have it at the other end, don't we? The worst day of your life, you want to go, you know what, I just need a drink. But what's the best day of life? Your wedding day. What are you doing? You're having a drink. So it's alcohol is at both ends of the spectrums, isn't it? If your highs are high, you want to. It's Friday, great. Let's go and have a drink. Or you have that other thing. Friday, can't wait for wine o'clock.
That first instance, it's Friday. Oh, let's have a blast and all that. That's still rooted in the working week up to that point. Has been something that I want to get away from. And let's look forward to this brilliant Friday where me state of being and me well-being is going to be enhanced by consuming that substance.
I also think people do it because other people do it and they think that's what you do. So they think you go home. And I tell you what I think is really unhealthy. 13, 14, 15-year-olds being allowed to drink by the parents. It's okay, they're only having 1 or 2. But at such an early age, young children are being introduced to, it is normal to have a drink.
But then why wouldn't a child think it was normal if every Friday and Saturday
Exactly.
night they saw mum and dad
Yeah.
watching Gogglebox
Exactly.
with a glass of wine? They
Exactly.
think that's what you do on a Friday.
I wasn't allowed to drink when I was, up until the age. My mum just wouldn't let me do it. She said, no, you're not
But
doing
even
it.
if you weren't doing it, you presumably were seeing the fact that when your parents, mum, dad, were enjoying themselves, they were drinking. You probably associated drinking with the fact that they would have a drink. Like, I remember going watching cricket with my dad on a Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
and he used to have a pint, and I used to always go, "Can I taste it, Dad?" And he'd go, "There you go," and I'd try it,
Yeah.
and it'd be mild or something. I go, "Oh, it's horrible."
It's
He'd go,
horrible.
and he'd go,
Yeah.
"You'll grow to like it."
But it's a city life, Liverpool especially. There's even more of a drinking culture again because it's
Yeah.
like the I grew up in pubs, just where I was from. The kinds of things my dad liked to do. That was his way of unwinding. That was just the way that fellas from a certain demographic, if you like, that's just what they did, because it also the British public house as well. What it also provides, and this is why we say that the Brink is sort of like a modern day pub. The public house provides a place for people to get together, exchange information, feel part of a community, or it caters for all that as well. But there was another point that I wanted to bring up as well about historical factors which can lead to even more localised issues with alcoholism, and the reason why Liverpool has traditionally been really like top of the charts when it's come to alcohol uses and the fallout from that, deaths early and stuff like that. Someone said something really interesting one time at a talk, which was about the anxiety that was pumped into the community from the war and the the bombs being dropped on the city. The intense levels of anxiety that people suffered, and then the having to resort to something to quell that anxiety. Generalising massively here, do you know what I mean? But the angst and the anxiety that existed in the city after the war was a massive reason, a lot of people say, in why people, a lot more people resorted to the public house and the drink and stuff like that. And again, it's filtered through into the generations, anxiety mixed with having to take the edge off in that way, filtered down to the next generation as well. And they found that, cities that have been bombed quite heavily during the war, they find that there's a correlation there as well with, levels of drink or drug usage.
I guess the other thing, David, is that if we were to do something about this and we were to prevent these deaths, which are happening 3 decades before, in preventing the deaths, what you probably do in the first instance is you just have somebody with a prolonged period of probably quite serious illness instead for a 25 to 30 year period. And then you're dealing with people who have got problems. They're not dying, great, but actually instead they're living for a longer period of time with different issues. So them not dying becomes not another problem, because it's great they're not dead, but it actually becomes something else which as a society we also need to deal with. So even if we got these numbers down to 0, this idea that we have solved the problem would be a false thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the NHS and the pharmaceutical industry to a T, isn't it? It doesn't, a lot of the time, it reduces the figures and it takes one thing away, but it doesn't actually take away the problem which causes it.
Do you know what I find interesting? I've got quite a large family, and quite a lot of cousins, and there are a number of my cousins who are currently either got dependency problems with alcohol, heroin and crack cocaine. And sometimes we sit around and we talk and we say, what can we do to help? Whereas we make to referrals to places like the Brink and stuff like that. But what we've noticed is there's a group of us who are girls and we're all working, right? I work full time, some of us work part time, we've got responsibilities. And all of our cousins who have got these issues are all male, and none of them have been in employment. And there is something to do with the socio-demographics in terms of why are our lads, right, all encountering these problems and making these choices? They've never worked. Why are they all doing it? We're all the girls, we're out working, we're bringing the money in, trying to support our family members as well, trying to refer. I mean, I spent 5 months last year every day getting up 6 o'clock in the morning, driving to a pharmacy to pick up subbies, to, weaning one of my cousins off heroin. So, but when we sit and talk as a family, we go, what's happened to all the lads? It's because they've never worked. They left school early. They've been out of prison, all of those type of things. You're thinking, is it something as simple as having to get up and do something, having that routine that gives you something that you can't get drunk overnight,
or is it a spiral that actually, if they're in that position, of course they're not going to be getting up and appearing in an office at 9 o'clock in the morning wearing a suit and tie.
But if you have that responsibility, so if you leave school and you get all the support and you go into an apprenticeship or you go to university, whatever you want to do, you've then got something that you focus on that takes up your time. If you drop out of school, and there are a number of people, particularly in poor areas, who do not have opportunities, who are not have a route way into education or into employment, and you hang around for the night and it's a bit of harmless fun with alcohol, you might have a few spliffs, then maybe it's a line of coke. If that goes on for years and years and years, it's a very, very slippery slope.
But I think that's the thing, and presumably you experience this through the Brink, that actually people might make those choices, but actually it gets to a point where they're not making a choice anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They're actually dependent. They're
they
alcohol
dependent,
they're drug dependent, and of course that's the point where you can't just go, well, I'm going to pull myself together now.
But
you're in the middle of an addiction.
But it's complex and it's structural. You know, if you look at the massive increase in heroin usage that flooded Liverpool, where did what was the environment that came from? Massive unemployment, the city on its knees in the 80s, huge economic problems. What do people want to do? Escape as far from that humdrum as possible. Exactly. But then you combine that with like laws that were relaxed to allow heroin into the country and those parts.
We haven't got a Coast Guard system. 80% of Colombia's heroin comes into the UK. A large proportion of that comes into Liverpool. But here's the other thing. You got Daves and the team at the Brink who are offering vital community preventative services. Yeah. The funding for organisations in the voluntary community and social enterprise sector who deliver these much needed preventive services is always cut. Right? I've developed a business. It's a private business, but we take a proportion, up to 50% of our profits, and try to fund institutions like the Brink so we can help them sustain and we can help them to support the vulnerable people in our communities. As an organisation, we have to go out there and persuade people. You should use us because we're persuading public sector, political agendas. This is why you need to procure socially, because we need to help the people in our communities so they've got choices, and it will take a long time, but it's very difficult, isn't it, when you're fighting against money, austerity.
Yeah.
Because the harder it gets, the more people will drink.
Sara Lawton there from Construction Impact Framework, Dave Barnicle from the Brink on a conversation off the back of this study about Britain having a higher rate of problem drinkers than anywhere else in Europe, although various other addictions were thrown into the mix when it comes to that conversation. Details of all our guests, including comedian Sam Serrano, up on our social media at Radio City Talk. Details as well of the podcast, which if you're listening to this via the podcast, thanks for downloading us. You can find the Mental Health Monday via your podcast provider. If you've never listened to podcasts before, just type in Mental Health Monday podcast into your search engine and you can subscribe and listen to all the previous editions.
Mental Health Monday
on Radio City Talk
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.